20 million records sold, a band that couldn't stand in the same room. Their biggest moment, stadiums packed with 50,000 fans, and they weren't even looking at each other. Success didn't save April Wine. It revealed them, exposed every crack, amplified every difference, turned brothers into strangers. Everyone saw the platinum plaques, the chart positions, the magazine covers. Nobody saw the 35-year drummer who left because working with his bandmate became unbearable. How does a band go from a Halifax basement to international stardom to silence? How does chemistry turn to toxicity? How does we become, I can't do this anymore? This is that story. But before the fall, there was the rise. And the rise, that's where it really went wrong. The rise and fall, everyone focuses on the fall, the breakup, the silence. But the rise, that's the dangerous part. Because success doesn't change people. It reveals who they always were, magnifies it, puts it under stadium lights and 24/7 scrutiny. April Wine didn't fail because they stopped being talented. They failed because they never stopped being human. And humans want different things, evolve at different speeds, break under pressure that looks like victory. The name April Wine sounds romantic. Springtime. Celebration. It became synonymous with one of Canadian rock's most painful dissolutions. But none of them understood what that name would eventually cost. That success is just pressure, evenly distributed. And all it takes is one crack. Nobody expected anything from them. Halifax, Nova Scotia, 1969. Four musicians who'd been kicking around the local scene for years. The Henman brothers, David and Richie, plus their cousin Jim, all from Newfoundland originally. Three family members who'd played together since they were teenagers. And Miles Goodwin, born in Woodstock, New Brunswick, raised in Waverley, Nova Scotia, lost his mother to cancer at 11, grew up poor in a household that, as he'd later describe it, became dysfunctional. Four males, no communication, no affection, just survival. Music saved him. That's not metaphor. That's what he said. By late 1969, his previous bands had dissolved. Jim Henman called him. The cousins wanted to start something new. Original material, real songs, real band. December 1st, 1969. First official rehearsal. They needed a name. David had written a rock opera about a young woman named April. Wine made it romantic, ambiguous. April Wine. Two words that sounded good together. What they didn't know then was that in 15 years, those two words would represent one of the biggest what-ifs in Canadian music history. Halifax offered no path forward, no major labels, no industry infrastructure. They sent a demo tape to Aquarius Records in Montreal, got back a rejection letter, read it as an invitation. April 1st, 1970, April Fool's Day, they showed up at Aquarius Records' office, unannounced, with their instruments, and $100 in cash, total. The label managers were bewildered. We rejected you. The band played anyway. Right there. They heard something, signed them, put them up in a rural chalet to write and rehearse. First album, April Wine, September 1971. The single Fast Train, written by Goodwin, hit number 38 on the RPM singles chart, top 40, for a debut from unknowns. That was validation. But validation comes with expectations. Jim Henman left in October 1971, went back to college. They replaced him with Jim Clench, a Montreal bassist. Recording sessions for album 2 began with Ralph Murphy producing. Murphy's mission, give April Wine a major international hit. When Goodwin brought in a riff, Clench knew exactly what the bass line should be. When David played rhythm, Richie's drums locked in instinctively. That's chemistry. You can't manufacture it. You can't fake it. It either exists or it doesn't. And in 1971, in that Montreal studio, it existed. On record, 1972. You Could Have Been a Lady, a Hot Chocolate cover, hit number 2 in Canada, then crossed into the US market, peaking at number 32 on the Billboard Hot 100. 11 weeks on the chart. For a Canadian band in 1972, that was massive. They had chemistry, they had momentum, they also had something invisible, the seeds of what would eventually destroy them. Because chemistry is great when you're struggling together, when you're unified by a common enemy, obscurity, poverty, rejection. But when that enemy disappears, when you're successful, chemistry becomes optional, and optional things rarely survive. By 1973, they were touring constantly, opening for Ike and Tina Turner, Jethro Tull, Stevie Wonder. The Henman brothers were burned out. During the recording of Electric Jewels, they quit. 2 of the 4 founding members, gone. Sources would later note, tensions between its members were growing. After a split pitted Goodwin and Clench on one side and the Henman brothers on the other, the Henmans left. Goodwin and Clench held auditions, brought in Jerry Mercer on drums and Gary Moffat on guitar. They embarked on the Electric Adventure Tour. 1974, across Canada, massive lighting rigs, pyrotechnics. Everything was working. Everything was building, but the higher you go, the harder the fall. 1975, Stand Back. The album went double platinum in Canada. First Canadian album to sell more than 100,000 copies. April Wine became the first band to sell out Regina Stadium, the first to sell out Edmonton's Kinsman Fieldhouse 2 nights in a row. Real venues, real money, real pressure. Jim Clench left after 4 years. Disagreements over musical direction. That's what the sources say. The most diplomatic phrase in music. What it means. We want different things now. Steve Lang replaced him on bass. But it came at a price. Every win introduced a new cost. Every milestone raised the bar for the next one. 1976. The Whole World's Going Crazy became the first Canadian album to achieve platinum status based on advanced sales orders alone. Hit #1 in Canada. Sold over 1 million copies domestically. The tour grossed over $1 million. They sold out the Montreal Forum. First Canadian band to do that. Goodwin took over producing duties himself. Creative control. Artistic vision. His vision. From the outside, perfection. From the inside, something was shifting. Brian Greenway joined in August 1977. Guitar, vocals, harmonica made them a 5-piece, a 3-guitar attack, stadium ready. April 1977. They opened for the Rolling Stones at Toronto's El Mocambo Club. That summer, the Stones took April Wine on their U.S. national tour. Forever for Now went gold, then platinum. You Won't Dance With Me became their best-selling Canadian single ever. Everything was working, but what they didn't realize was that every level of success required a different version of themselves. And eventually, you run out of versions. 1978, First Glance. Roller caught fire at FM rock stations. Started in Michigan, spread across the country, charted on the Billboard Hot 100 for 11 weeks. First Glance went gold in America. Their first U.S. gold record. 1979, Harder, Faster. Platinum in Canada. Gold in the U.S. Spent 40 weeks on the Billboard album chart. I Like to Rock became an anthem. August 1980. They performed at the inaugural Monsters of Rock Festival at Castle Donington, UK, with Saxon, Scorpions, Judas Priest, Rainbow. They were touring with Rush, Styx, Journey. Not opening anymore. Co-headlining. By 1980, April Wine was an international rock band. Everyone was making real money, life-changing money. This should have been a red flag, because when everyone's getting what they want, nobody's asking if they still want the same things. January 1981. The Nature of the Beast, the commercial peak. First single, Just Between You and Me, a power ballad. The song hit #21 on the Billboard Hot 100, highest charting U.S. single in their career. #11 on Billboard's mainstream rock chart. Stayed on the Hot 100 for 16 weeks. And here's the kicker. Just Between You and Me became the first song by a Canadian artist ever played on MTV. MTV launched August 1st, 1981. 5 April Wine songs were in rotation on day 1. The album debuted at #24 on the Billboard 200. Stayed on the chart for 34 weeks. By the end of 1981, The Nature of the Beast had sold over 1 million copies in the United States. Platinum certified. Double platinum in Canada. They were playing to 20,000 people a night. Stadium tours. Charter jets. Magazine covers in 15 countries. This was it. The absolute top of the mountain. Everything they'd sacrificed for in that Halifax basement 12 years ago, multiplied by 1,000. But here's what the fans didn't see. The arguments that used to last 10 minutes now lasted hours. The creative disagreements that used to resolve themselves now required mediation. During interviews when they talked about brotherhood, they weren't making eye contact anymore. Goodwin was producing everything himself now. His vision, his direction, his final word, the collaborative magic, professionalized to death, replaced by efficiency, by routine. They weren't writing together anymore. Small things, easy to ignore when the checks are clearing. But the system only works as long as nothing changes, and everything was about to change. For 2 years, 1981, 1982, it worked. Power Play, 1982, went platinum. Enough is Enough got heavy MTV rotation. The album peaked at #37 on the Billboard 200. They had a routine. Write for 6 months, record for 3, tour for a year, repeat. The money was good. The shows were great. From the business side, flawless execution. They were professionals. They delivered. This was the mature version, the sustainable version. In interviews, they talked about family, brotherhood, and they believed it, sort of. They'd been doing this for 13 years. It wasn't the basement chemistry anymore. That magic was gone. But this was the professional version. You didn't need to be best friends to create great work. But here's what was really happening. They weren't spending time together off stage anymore. Separate buses when possible, separate hotels when feasible, soundcheck, perform. Nothing until the next show. But nobody said it, because saying it made it real. And solving it might mean admitting that the thing they'd built was built on a foundation that no longer existed. Stability isn't peace. It's just pressure evenly distributed. And all it takes is one crack. 1984. Animal Grace Sessions. Encyclopedia.com. The lengthy recording sessions for Animal Grace, the band's 11th original studio album, released in 1984, once again exposed tensions among the band's members. Once again, meaning the cracks were already visible. The members were not getting along. During those sessions, Goodwin made a decision that would symbolize everything wrong. He moved his family to the Bahamas, not after the album. During the Canadian Encyclopedia, Goodwin then relocated his family to the Bahamas, and the band began to fracture. Your band is in Canada, recording an album. You're the primary songwriter, the leader, and you moved to the Caribbean. The album got finished. Professionals finish things. Animal Grace came out, got middling reception. More importantly, they announced a farewell tour, not "We're taking a break." Farewell. July 31st, 1984, Kelowna, British Columbia. Final concert. 15 years after the first rehearsal, they still owed Capitol Records one more album, so Greenway joined Goodwin in Nassau, along with session musicians. Notice what's missing. The rest of April Wine. Just Goodwin and Greenway. Walking Through Fire, released September 1985. It peaked at number 174 on the Billboard 200. 4 weeks on the chart. A footnote. A contractual obligation. The sound of a band already dead. And once that line was crossed, there was no way back. You can't unhear words. You can't unknow someone's true opinion of you. Here's what makes the Nature of the Beast era so tragic. It was their biggest success, and their beginning of the end. Success at that level changes everything. The expectations, the pressure, the scrutiny. When you have a number 24 Billboard album, an MTV rotation, and platinum certification, you can't just be a band anymore. You're a business, an asset, a revenue stream. But people aren't machines. People have limits. Jerry Mercer had been drumming for April Wine since 1973. During the peak years, he was doing 100+ shows annually. What changed? They got everything they wanted. And everything they wanted required giving up everything that made them them. The money changed things too. When you're broke, sleeping in a van, you're unified by necessity. When you're making millions, unity becomes optional. Goodwin bought property in the Bahamas, a literal island away. That's not just geography. That's philosophy. That's values. And money amplifies differences. Every business decision becomes ideological. Goodwin wanted to produce himself, control the sound. When the label sided with Goodwin, it wasn't just a business decision, it was a statement. This is his band. You work for it. You can't come back from that realization. Magic requires equality. Chemistry requires mutual respect. Brotherhood requires genuine partnership. And by 1984, none of that existed. By year 15, they were famous enough that their dysfunction became a story. Body language on stage. Who thanked whom during acceptance speeches? Music journalists noticed. Fans noticed. And being noticed amplifies everything. The thing they wanted most, recognition, validation, success, was now trapping them. They were winning, but no longer together. And winning alone felt a lot like losing. Success didn't fix the problem. It revealed the problem was never fixable. They had everything except each other. 1981, the year everything converged. The Nature of the Beast. Stadium tour. Magazine covers in 15 countries. They'd made it to the top of the mountain. This was the moment they had been chasing, and the moment everything began to fall apart. Because here's what nobody tells you about summits. There's nothing up there. No trophy that satisfies. Just thin air and the realization that the climb was the point. And they'd stopped enjoying the climb years ago. The Power Play Tour, 1982, should have been a victory lap. Instead, separate buses, separate hotels, minimal interaction offstage, soundcheck, perform, disappear until the next show. Success had arrived. They just weren't there to receive it together. They were playing to 50,000 people, getting standing ovations. But after the show, separate hotel rooms, separate phone calls. The dream was isolation at scale, loneliness in front of an audience. They'd imagined this moment together, laughing, celebrating, brothers. What they got was the hollow realization that they'd professionalized their friendship to death. The spotlight revealed just how far apart they'd grown. After the farewell tour in 1984, after Walking Through Fire limped to number 174, the band was officially done. The statement went out. Creative differences. The most honest lie in music. It meant the distance between what Goodwin wanted and what the others wanted had become unbridgeable. It meant someone finally had the courage to say what everyone had known for years. This isn't working. No villain, no betrayal, just exhaustion, just honesty, just, I can't do this anymore. 1985 through 1992. Silence. 8 years. Goodwin tried solo work, released a self-titled album in 1988. It went nowhere. Critics were kind. Fans were indifferent. Turns out what people loved wasn't him. It was them. The chemistry. Brian Greenway released Serious Business in 1988. Same result. Jerry Mercer formed the Buzz Band, played small clubs. Gary Moffat went into record production. Solo careers that sold 50,000 copies combined. Because you can't karaoke your own legacy. You can't perform songs written by 5 people as if they were written by one. The magic wasn't transferable. Remove one element, the whole thing collapses. People ask, why didn't they try therapy? They did. 3 times. Why didn't they take a break? They took several, including 8 years. Why couldn't they just work it out? Because some things aren't broken. They're fundamentally incompatible. Goodwin's vision for the band, the other's vision for their lives. Nobody was wrong, but nobody could get what they wanted while staying together. And at some point, you choose your sanity or your legacy. But the real damage, the relationships, 15 years of friendship, of shared struggle, of nights in the van, broke and hungry and dreaming, gone, replaced by silence. The reunion lasted, sort of. July 1992, first concert in 8 years, sold out. Summer 1992, sold out shows across Canada. They released Attitude 1993, certified gold in Canada, Frigate 1994. From 1990 to 2000, 80 to 100 shows per year. On paper, successful reunion. In reality, managed distance, professional courtesy, the minimum required to make it work. Clench left again in 2006, died in 2010 from lung cancer at 61. Mercer left in November 2008. The official reason? Conflicts with lead singer Myles Goodwin became unbearable. Unbearable after 36 years. In a 2017 interview, Jerry Mercer spoke openly. Things started to turn sour over his last few years in the band, as he came into conflict with band founder, songwriter, vocalist, the always mercurial Myles Goodwin. It was not a happy parting of the ways. He continued, in spite of what Myles wrote in his book, it's all 100% totally wrong. Did he want me out of the band? Oh yes. But his way of doing it was to consciously and conscientiously put as much pressure on me as he could. 36 years, hundreds of shows, millions of records, ended because working together became toxic. That's the real cost. Not album sales, but the destruction of relationships that once meant something. Goodwin and Mercer haven't spoken since 2008. Phone numbers blocked. Won't be in the same building. 22 years of friendship. Brotherhood. Replaced by nothing. Think about what was lost. The nature of the beast came in 1981. Goodwin retired from touring in December 2022. That's 41 years. Imagine the albums that'll never be made, the tours that'll never happen. Instead, solo projects that sound like echoes, reunion tours that feel like tribute acts. Legacy frozen in time. They didn't perform together at the Canadian Music Hall of Fame induction in 2010. Couldn't stand on stage as a group. They know what they had. The basement, the chemistry, the magic, and they know they can't get it back. Ever. You can't unbreak that kind of trust. You can't rebuild that kind of chemistry. Once you kill it, it's dead forever. Here's the paradox. The music remains. The art survived the artists. Just Between You and Me is still on every classic rock radio station. I Like to Rock is still an anthem. New generations discover them on Spotify. The songs soundtrack first kisses, road trips, breakups, weddings, and the people singing along, they have no idea about the arguments, the resentment. The 36-year drummer who left because working with the lead singer became unbearable. They just know the music, and maybe that's enough. Maybe the point of art is to transcend the artist. The work outlived the workers, but it doesn't feel like enough when you're the artist, when you know what it cost, when you carry the wounds. The narrative became simple, creative differences. Two words that explained nothing and everything, but the truth was infinitely more complicated. It wasn't one fight, it wasn't one decision. It was 1,000 small cuts accumulated over 15 years. Different values emerging, different needs surfacing, success revealing incompatibilities that struggle had hidden, pressure breaking communication patterns, time changing people into versions their younger selves wouldn't recognize. You can't reduce 22 years to a headline, but headlines are what history remembers. And everyone moves on, except the people who lived it. They don't get to move on, they get to carry it forever. Could they have saved it? Should they have tried harder? What if Goodwin had shared more creative control? What if they'd taken a longer break in 1982? What if success had come slower? We'll never know. Neither will they. And that's its own kind of torture, spending the rest of your life wondering, what if? Every solo show Goodwin played before his retirement, he was wondering. Every band Jerry Mercer produces, he's teaching them to avoid his mistakes. They achieved everything: stadium tours, platinum records, international recognition, financial security, and lost what mattered most: the friendship, the brotherhood, the thing that made them special. Here's what April Wine's story teaches. Success doesn't guarantee happiness. Fame doesn't fix relationships. Money doesn't heal wounds. Achievement doesn't fulfill you. And sometimes getting everything you want reveals that you wanted the wrong things, or wanted them for the wrong reasons, or wanted them with people who wanted different things. April Wine achieved the dream. Every musician's fantasy, unknown to arena level, broke to wealthy, obscure to iconic. But the dream had a cost, a permanent, irreversible cost. The silence between former bandmates, the unresolved conflicts, the what-ifs that haunt quiet moments. They created something beautiful together that neither could create alone. The solo albums proved it. 50,000 copies combined. Critical kindness. Commercial indifference. The reunion tours proved it. They could play the songs, hit the notes, execute professionally. But it sounded different, felt different, was different because the original magic required all the elements, the specific combination, the exact chemistry. Remove one, the reaction doesn't happen. For April Wine, it existed from 1969 to roughly 1981. 12 years where everything clicked, then it started dying, slowly, professionally, invisibly to everyone except them. By 1984, it was dead, professionalized to death. And somewhere, in their private moments, they all know it. They've tried replicating it. Other projects, other collaborations, nothing comes close because lightning doesn't strike twice. And when you have it, when you're living in that magical moment, you don't realize how rare it is. You think it's normal, replicable, until it's gone. And then it's too late. April Wine had something millions of people spend their lives searching for, and they destroyed it. Not intentionally, not maliciously, just through being human, through wanting different things, through not knowing how to navigate success without losing what made success possible, through letting pressure turn chemistry into routine, magic into professionalism, brotherhood into employment. And once it's gone, you can never get it back, ever. That's the lesson. That's the cost of everything they achieved. They got the dream and lost themselves. Have you ever had something amazing fall apart? Not because of betrayal or dramatic conflict, just because the thing that united you disappeared, and what replaced it, success, options, different paths, revealed that you wanted different things. That's what happened to April Wine. That's what keeps happening to creative partnerships, business partnerships, marriages, friendships. The dream changes you, success reveals you, and sometimes the person you become can't coexist with the person your partner becomes. There's no right answer. Miles Goodwin chose his artistic vision, his legacy, his control. Jerry Mercer chose his sanity, his joy in music, his peace. Neither was wrong, but both lost something irreplaceable. If you were in that control room in 1984, 22 years invested, your entire identity wrapped up in this band, and you're just tired. Do you stay? Do you go? What would you have done?